on the Epstein-Trump relationship. We've certainly known that they're friends. These emails, though, suggest perhaps closer friends than the president would like the public to know. And then in response to that, the Republicans put out 23,000 emails, sort of an effort to flood the zone, to distract from the damaging ones that came out, although I don't think it really worked. Some of those emails also, a lot of them mention Trump, and some of them make clear that Epstein and Trump, were friends and spent a lot of time together, even though they did later have a falling out. What's so striking about this is that it's a rare moment where Republicans are willing to defy him. Some of his most loyal allies have rebuked his calls to let this just go away. And now we see him barreling towards a vote on the House floor in the coming days.
And those coming days, from my sources, should be Tuesday. And the survivors, a lot of the survivors are here in Washington, D.C. So this week in Washington, D.C., I would expect a flurry, a flurry of activity. But let's continue. Again, fair use.
Given that material that was released, the discharge petition to force the vote, what do you make of the way the president is reacting and responding to all of this?
Well, as I wrote for The Atlantic this week, even some of his closest allies are puzzled by his approach. As one said to me, like, this is not how you act if you don't have anything to hide. It's been a major cause for so many on the right for so long to
this was a day ago, maybe an hour or so ago. Trump posted, or there's quite a few articles out there that, again, that I believe has shocked or will shock once it gets through the airwaves, that he has gone ahead and said, I have nothing to hide, and is encouraging the files to be released. So it should be very interesting. Again, with all of this time, and keep in mind, with all of this time, these files have been floating around. I'm not suggesting or implying because I don't know, but is it possible something could be scrubbed or redacted even further or removed? At this point, who really knows? But let's continue.
unearth these so-called files. So it does seem like the House has enough votes to pass it next week. Then it'll move to the Senate. As I reported, Trump is considering trying to pressure senators, so perhaps it will be killed there in the upper chamber. If it were to pass there too, well, then he'll be left with the choice to veto. You assume that he would, but even that would just raise more questions. What exactly is he trying to hide? This is sort of the number one.
Again, this was a day ago, and he's gone ahead and said, again, that could easily change, as many things do extremely quickly, but we shall see. But let's continue. Again, this is PBS News.
Sort of mystery in Washington right now.
Given all that, what effect is this having on the president, on his political standing, on his standing with Congress, with the members of his own party?
It's come at exactly the wrong time for Trump. It comes now at a time when the president is already at the weakest moment of his second term. His party, of course, just suffered pretty lopsided defeats in the elections earlier this month. Polls suggest that not only does the public blame Trump and Republicans more for the government shutdown that just ended, but also they say that Trump is really out of touch on issues like affordability and prices, the things he was really elected on last year. As with the midterms now less than a year away, and Trump desperately trying to not be perceived as a lame duck and trying to keep Republicans in power so he doesn't have to face a Democratic majority in the House, let's say, which would have subpoena power. He's flailing and really struggling here to come up with an acceptable response to the Epstein matter.
As I mentioned, it appears that this may go for a vote on Tuesday, which is tomorrow. We shall see.
only 4 House Republicans who defied him. But there's still a lot of MAGA supporters who were talking about the Epstein files during the campaign. Is there any sense of any tension or any cracks in the broader MAGA coalition?
I think there are. I think this is something where we're so used to the MAGA base basically cheering on everything President Trump wants and does. And if he were to say to them like this isn't important, they would listen and they'd move on. But that has not really happened here with the Epstein matter because it's been for some on the right. This has been a core belief of theirs for a long time. Jeffrey Epstein, died under mysterious circumstances. That the list, if you will, is going to bring down powerful people and institutions, largely Democrats, they think. So that's a hard thing to ask your voters to give up. And I think now that some Republicans, the 4 in the House, have taken a stand, I suspect there'll be some in the Senate who do as well.
And let me just say really quickly that even, surprise, surprise, Megyn Kelly seems to be a little bit frustrated and has even, per reports, has said, just release the file. So again, Megyn Kelly, who is a supporter, however, I think they're all getting Epstein file fatigue.
Well, it could very easily be interesting to watch this really springs to life again as an issue in the sort of conservative media, because it did earlier this year. A lot of the MAGA sphere, podcasts, blogs, even some cable shows really seized on the Epstein matter and questioned President Trump. They largely stopped when he asked them to. Now, perhaps those questions will be revived.
Jonathan Lemire of The Atlantic, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's take a quick break and we're going to go to a quick article.
I know you lying. 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 I know.
So this article is courtesy of let me get straight to it. Published November the 16th. And this is the time, or times rather. Again, in a major reversal, President Donald Trump has signaled to House Republicans that they can, CAN, they can vote for the release of the so-called Epstein files. Okay, he's considering this as the so-called Epstein files. And let me get back to there. Again, this is fresh. And let me get back to the article. Again, President Donald Trump says Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files. This week, the House is expected to vote. Again, it's going to be very interesting in Washington, D.C. on whether to release federal files related to Jeffrey Epstein, the late Jeffrey Epstein, and as it relates to crimes and things that he was involved in allegedly, and these files allegedly could implicate many people. So, according to various news sources and outlets, Trump has said it's okay because he has nothing to hide. So, we're going to listen to a video in one moment of something very interesting that happened today. Again, thank you for joining, and we'll be back in one moment. Okay, this audio is courtesy of Live Now, and this has been about 15 hours ago, and I think most people have heard about this, but for those of you that have not, just a little bit of context. Again, courtesy of Live Now from Fox.
Some breaking news at this hour. I did want to share this social media post from the Democrats saying that Oversight Dems have received new emails from Jeffrey Epstein's estate that raise serious questions about Donald Trump and his knowledge of Epstein's horrific crimes. Read them for yourself. It's time to end this cover up and release the files. This is some file footage of the late Jeffrey Epstein, and I did want to share some more information on this breaking news. Jeffrey Epstein writing in a 2011 email that President Trump had, quote, spent hours at Epstein's house with a victim of sex trafficking, and said in a separate message years later that President Trump knew about the girls, in quotes.
So this is something that I believe most people have heard, that allegedly President Trump was aware but was not I repeat, was not a participant. So let's continue on. And fair use and viewer and listening discretion is advised.
Quotation marks. That's according to communications released today. Now, the emails made public by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee add to the questions about President Trump's friendship with Epstein and about any knowledge that he may have had in what prosecutors call a years-long effort by Epstein to exploit underage girls. President Trump has consistently denied any knowledge of Epstein's alleged crimes and has said he ended their relationship
And that is what many people on both sides have said. So let's see how this goes. Again, this is audio from Live Now, courtesy of Fox.
years ago. This is also a post from the Associated Press saying that emails from Jeffrey Epstein released by Democrats say President Trump, quote, knew about the girls and spent time with a victim.
Okay. Your thoughts on that? Now, even though it has not been said nor confirmed that President Trump had, make sure that I choose my words properly, participated in anything illegal, his knowledge, your thoughts on that and how that, what type of light in your perspective puts President Donald Trump in. Okay, this audio is courtesy of Brian Tyler Cohen. Again, Brian Tyler Cohen. And this was just a few short hours ago. Fair use.
On this, it's, you know, it just looks bad, right? I mean, it was the Attorney General came out and said all these white binders, we're going to release all this information, and then a month later said, oh, no, we're not. So it's been a PR blunder from the beginning, and I think the Speaker's right. This is going to happen, so let's get it done and vote on it. And we got to realize it still has to go to the Senate, then it has to go to the President for signature. Meanwhile, our oversight.
Now, this is actually taken from CBS News, Face the Nation, but you can find this on Brian Tyler Cohen's page. Let's continue.
Committee is releasing thousands and thousands of pages of evidence concerning Epstein.
That was Don Bacon, yet another Republican lawmaker dropping a cold dose of reality on Donald Trump and Mike Johnson, both of whom continue to run defense in the White House's efforts to prevent these files from seeing the light of day. Bacon says here that the train has left the station. He's right. Here is a small sampling of other Republicans who've already come out and offered their support for Tuesday's vote.
Now, that's the voice of Brian Tyler Cohen. Let's continue.
I want to start first with this potential vote. You did not support the discharge petition. How are you planning to vote next week?
Yeah, I'm going to vote yes. I mean, I've said all along I'm for total transparency here, consistent with protecting the victims, and so this is going to be.
Now, that is Republican Kevin Kiley of California, who just said he was going to vote yes next week. And I believe the day is Tuesday.
Coming for a yes up or down vote on the House floor next week, and I plan to vote yes.
Look, I think the oversight committee. I'm going to vote for it if it comes up because
You'll vote for the bill.
Yeah, because look, I think the oversight committee.
And this is the voice of Republican Warren Davidson of Ohio, who has also said he was going to vote yes.
He has pushed out a lot of disclosures. The administration's done a lot. If you look in the UK, they've tried to do something towards Prince Andrew. But one of the things that went away during the shutdown.
Now, for those of you who may have been under a rock or didn't know, allegedly Prince Andrew has been stripped of that royal title. Again, Prince Andrew. So this is very serious, ladies and gentlemen. And for those of you that are just coming in, thank you so much. Please make sure that you double tap your screens, or depending upon what device you are listening to, please give this a thumbs up. All comments are welcome. Just please be respectful. And again, thank you. Thank you to everyone. I appreciate each and every one of you. Let's continue.
As Pam Bondi was supposed to come to the House and answer these questions. And look, I'm not on the Judiciary Committee, but I did want Pam Bondi to come and do some explaining.
Everyone that voted.
Now,
for
this voice right here that you hear is Marjorie Taylor Greene. And she used to be a staunch Trump supporter, but it appears that they may have had a verbal fisticuff. So let's listen in on what she has to say.
Trump ban.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, release the Epstein files.
Right.
This is not even an argument. It's not even debatable. It's not being a traitor to the president to sign my name on a Thomas Massie discharge petition to release the Epstein files. No. I am staying true to what we've always said. There needs to be transparency.
We're forcing this vote, and it's going to happen. I would remind my.
So now we're here from someone else who says we are forcing this vote. So again, this is courtesy of Brian Tyler Cohen. If you have not listened to his content, to me it is excellent. It's again, to me, down the middle, and it pulls from different news outlets, not just one, not just Fox, not just CNN, but the whole realm. So let's continue. Again, courtesy of Brian Tyler Cohen.
Republican colleagues who are deciding how to vote. Donald Trump can protect you in red districts right now by giving you an endorsement, but in 2030, he's not going to be the president, and you will have voted to protect pedophiles if you don't vote to release these files, and the president can't protect you then.
In fact, it's not just those Republicans. I spoke with.
No, that was a very bold statement that Donald Trump is not going to be here in 2030. I think he means as far as president, I don't think he's trying to foreshadow anything else happening, but let's continue.
Congressman Ro Khanna about exactly how many Republicans he expects are going to sign on to this effort. Here's what he had to say.
Well, Massie and I are hoping for a big number. We're hoping for at least 30 to 40 Republicans. We'll see what happens. It's Massie and me.
30 to 40 Republicans expected to sign on. How are you MAGA people feeling about that? And as I mentioned, even Megyn Kelly, who has gotten on the nerves of many people, has also said, just release the files. Why don't you? So let us continue. Again, this audio is courtesy of Brian Tyler Cohen. It's, as Nelly said, and Nelly's a rapper, it's getting hot in here. But President Trump has said, go ahead, release them. He has nothing to hide. Is that President Trump being completely transparent and honest? Does he have something up his sleeve, or is he gaslighting the people? Your thoughts on that? Let's continue.
Versus the Trump White House. I mean, he's literally threatening to unendorse people. He's unendorsing Marjorie Taylor Greene because of this. Nothing has split the.
Now that's the voice that you heard just a few moments ago, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who he referred to her as being wacky, and she in turn has felt like derogatory comments made towards her may have put her life in danger. And Donald Trump, in a separate clip, and you can do your research. I always implore you to do your research. Refer to her as Marjorie Traitor Greene. So there's a little bit of what did Taylor Swift sing about? Bad blood going on. But let's continue.
The MAGA coalition more than this bill since Donald Trump walked down the escalator. I mean, that's the truth. It has really been mind-boggling to see online what's happening.
And of course, to watch that full interview with Ro Khanna or any other of my interviews, please subscribe to this channel. It is the best way to support my work, and it is and always will be 100% free. But Ro Khanna is correct. While things might seem convenient right now to blindly defer to Trump, he will not be around forever. But your vote to defend a pedophile ring will. That's not something that you'll be able to outrun or try to explain away. There are already too many Republicans who are able to acknowledge objective reality.
So again, you can listen to the entire video on Brian Tyler Cohen's page. So next we are going to The Tonight Show, where you'll hear about Marjorie Taylor Greene, what I just said.
Thank you for watching, guys.
You know, there's going to be some talk about what I just mentioned, President Trump referring to MTG or Marjorie Taylor Greene as Marjorie Traitor Greene. Again, this is courtesy of The Tonight Show.
As we're coming to you after tonight's big game between the Detroit Lions and the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes. Right now, the only matchup that's more exciting is President Trump versus Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, that's very close. Yep, it was week 11 in the.
Okay, it's frozen a little bit, but if we cannot get to it, you can certainly go to The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, where he speaks about President Trump referring to Marjorie Taylor Greene as Marjorie Traitor Greene, and there are plenty of clips floating around where you can find that. So let's see if we can get to that. If not, we will continue. And there may be a lot of people on this page, so we shall see what happens. Okay, I think we're back up. Again, if not, you can go to The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. But a lot of these websites are saying that they're having problems with the page and they're directing you off. So we'll see what happens with this one. Yes, it's saying it's not responding. So we're going to jump off of this one and, oh, no, let's see.
Right now.
I don't think it's going to go through, but we'll see. Again, you can go on your own time to The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon or any, just type in Trump calls Marjorie Taylor Greene, Marjorie Trader Greene. So that's going to be talked about for some time now. So let's go to another video and we're going to take a quick break. Thank you again for those tuning in, and I'm going to put this up for you to review until we return. Again, thank you for tuning in and your thoughts so far as to this expected vote on Tuesday and how far it'll go.
Trump. CBS News legal reporter Katrina Coffin joins us. So
We're back,
thank you so much
and
for being
this is
here.
courtesy
Reading
of
through
Face
these
the Nation.
documents, of which there are thousands. What are some of the main takeaways right now about Epstein, how he felt about President Trump, and any insight into their relationship?
Lindsay, I think one of the biggest takeaways is that Jeffrey Epstein called himself the one able to take him down. He hints that he has damaging information about Donald Trump. He also alludes to the fact that Trump spent time in his home. In one email to author Michael Wolff, he wrote, "Of course he knew about the girls," something that Trump has said he was not aware of. So there are emails here that claim that Trump has more knowledge than he has said. They don't say that he was necessarily a participant in these activities.
And that part right there is, I think, is very important. So let's advance this a little bit and let's continue.
Comes up in an exchange from 2015. This was after Virginia Giuffre, one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims who committed suicide in the spring, had just filed a lawsuit alleging that Maxwell and Epstein groomed and sexually abused her. And in it, Lindsay, they seem to be coordinating their public responses. And
again, viewer and listening discretion is highly advised. Again, courtesy of Face the Nation.
She writes to Epstein, I have to distance myself from you in my statement, but since that interview with Todd Blanche, she's been moved to a nicer prison, and it's said that she's getting preferential treatment and putting together that application to potentially commute her sentence.
Katrina Kaufman, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's bring in CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang. Weijia, how is President Trump reacting to this renewed focus?
So we're going to listen to how our President Donald Trump is reacting
On the Epstein files and his upcoming vote in the House.
Well, President Trump is not reacting really. He is simply trying to discredit all of the emails that have come out, the documents, and trying to shift the narrative, Lindsay. Yesterday, he wanted to focus on the government shutdown. He did issue a couple Truth Social posts slamming the Democrats and this effort that the White House calls a campaign to spin a false narrative about Trump and to smear him. But I do think it's very telling because it's so rare for President Trump not to take questions. And of course, we all saw him sign that funding bill into law to reopen the government last night from inside the Oval Office. And he didn't take a single question, not even about the shutdown. And reporters tried to shout questions about Epstein, but he did not engage. And then today there was one open event with President Trump, and he didn't take questions either. I will say during that event, it was very formal with tons of people packed into the East Room here at the White House. And typically he doesn't take questions in that setting, but he has before. All that to say that he would like this story to go away, as would White House officials, who of course are.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. So, again, this is courtesy of Face the Nation. The title is Trump Responds to the Latest Epstein Docs as the House Prepares to Vote on the Files Release. And again, just maybe an hour or two ago, President Trump has said Republicans should go ahead and vote on this because he has nothing to hide. Again, is this total transparency, or is there something up the president's and the administration's sleeve? Let's continue.
Are defending him and criticizing Democrats for bringing these emails into light, but again, are really trying to focus on other parts of the president's agenda.
All right, Weijia Jiang, thank you. CBS News Chief Washington analyst Robert Costa joins us now. Sir, why is this an issue uniquely important to both the MAGA base and Democrats?
It's good to be with you. For Democrats, this is about holding President Trump to account. They are in the minority in both the Senate and the House of Representatives, and they're looking for many fronts, whether it's healthcare or the Epstein files, as a way to pressure this presidency and try to get some traction for the party ahead of the 2026 midterms, and to show their own voters that when it comes to the disclosure of this case at the Justice Department level, the Democrats are trying to pursue more information. And for Republicans, this comes back to a growing trend on the right over the past decade or so, where they have really focused more and more, based on my reporting, on the alleged conduct of different officials across the board, Democrats
And that is what a lot of people have been murmuring about, not just Republicans, but Democrats as well. As we know, Bill Clinton's name came out earlier this week. But what does that really mean? Let's continue.
and Republicans, about wealthy people, business leaders, and Jeffrey Epstein has become perhaps the focus for so many Republican voters who see him as an emblem of all that's wrong with the perceived legal and political and cultural establishment, in the sense that they believe he got away with crimes even though he was convicted and ultimately served time.
Is this becoming something?
So again, you can go to Face the Nation for that entire video. Again, Trump responds to the latest Epstein docs as the House prepares to vote on files release. And more audio.
The House of Representatives is expected to vote this week on releasing the Jeffrey Epstein files. Many in the president's own party are calling for their release, including a former ally of the president, GOP Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. Here's ABC's senior White House correspondent Selena Wang with the latest.
Last week's release by the House Oversight Committee of thousands of documents subpoenaed from the estate of Jeffrey Epstein, raising new questions about the convicted sex offender's relationship with President Trump.
Jeffrey Epstein and I had a very bad relationship for many years.
The president now calling for an investigation into Democrats, ordering his Attorney General Pam Bondi and the FBI to investigate Epstein, but only his relationship with prominent Democrats. Bondi appointing U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton, saying the department will pursue.
And they have also put in former President Bill Clinton's name into this.
This with urgency and integrity. Some Republicans pushing back on the president's move.
And the president's been saying this is a hoax. He's just now decided to investigate a hoax. If it's a hoax.
The president so far refusing to release the full FBI files on Epstein. Now a bipartisan group of lawmakers are trying to force him to do just that. A House vote on the matter expected sometime this week.
I think we could have a deluge of Republicans. I'm hoping to get a veto-proof majority.
Democratic Senator Chris Murphy says he believes the president wouldn't be trying to block the release of the files unless he was seriously implicated in them. The president has denied any wrongdoing and has not been charged or investigated.
This is most likely the biggest corrupt.
So again, keep that in mind. President Trump has not been implicated. However, it appears allegedly that his name continues to pop up. Let's continue.
Scandal in the history of the country.
Former Trump ally Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene now locked in a growing battle with the president. She's among the Republicans calling for the release of the files, telling CNN,
Don't believe that rich, powerful people should be protected if they have done anything wrong. I will continue to do my small part to get the files released.
Selena Wang, ABC News, Washington.
Again, that was courtesy of ABC News, Washington.
House Republicans. The Senate and be signed by the president, but with nearly 2/3 of the House expected to vote for the release, the majority could prevent a presidential veto. KTLA 5's Carlos Soseto joins us live in our news center with more details on this. Hi, Carlos.
Ladies, good evening. The White House is calling the vote a political distraction, but there is growing bipartisan support from both Democrats and Republicans to release all files related to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. There has even been a public breakup between the president and one of his most ardent supporters. Capitol Hill is gearing up for what could be a bipartisan push to force the Department of Justice to release all the Jeffrey Epstein case files.
And that ally they keep referring to is Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Lawmakers are predicting a sizable number of Republicans to vote with Democrats to release files related to the sex trafficking investigation.
I think we could have a deluge of Republicans. There could be 100 or more. I'm hoping to get a veto-proof majority on this legislation when it comes up for a vote.
The vote could happen.
So they're putting out in the atmosphere a veto proof. Let's see if that is even possible. Let's continue.
As early as Tuesday, as a discharge petition forces a floor vote, even if it's not introduced by House leadership. Trump ally Speaker Mike Johnson calling the petition a distraction.
He had nothing to do with it. President Trump has clean hands. He's not worried about it. I talk to him all the time. He has nothing to do with this. He's frustrated that they're turning it into a political issue, and it's not surprising because the Democrats have nothing else to talk about. What have they accomplished in 10 months? Epstein is their entire game plan. So we're going to take that weapon out of their hand this week.
20,000 documents were released last Wednesday by the House Oversight Committee. They show the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein talked about President Trump.
Okay, that was Mike Johnson that we heard. And this is the Oversight Committee again. Let's continue.
Often in private emails. In one instance, Epstein wrote Mr. Trump knew about the girls, an allegation that Trump has denied for years. President Trump is not accused of any criminal wrongdoing in connection with Epstein. There's already been public fallout with some GOP members, including Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. In an online post, the president wrote he was withdrawing support of Greene because she was, quote, wacky, and that he would endorse a challenger in next year's midterm elections. Greene has been at odds with the president over the government shutdown and the loss of healthcare subsidies. She has also demanded the release of all Epstein files.
Do you see a situation where you and
So this is audio. Again, the voice you will hear momentarily is that of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Again, thank you for tuning in to Trump. I have nothing to hide.
President Trump can make up? And if not, do you think you have a future in the GOP?
Well, I certainly hope that we can make up.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't think her life is in danger. I don't think.
So there's the clip I was speaking about earlier that Jimmy Fallon was speaking about, but unfortunately that particular site froze. So that voice you just heard was Donald Trump calling Marjorie Taylor Greene Marjorie Traitor Greene.
Frankly, I don't think anybody cares about her.
Again, the House is expected to vote to release all the files on Tuesday. It then heads to the Senate, where the outcome remains uncertain. Reporting from the KTLA News Center, Carlos Salcedo, KTLA 5 News.
Now, the next audio you will hear will be from survivors. Again, fair use and courtesy of Nightly News.
A new public plea tonight from 11 Epstein survivors.
I was 14 years old. I was 16 years old. This was me. This is me when I met Jeffrey Epstein.
This PSA, a call to action, urging Americans to make their voices heard ahead of that vote to try to force the release of the Epstein files.
There are about 1,000 of us. now to release all of the files.
It's never been political for us. We've been saying that, and it seems to be, we scream it from the rooftops, and somehow it still gets politicized. But just it is like a deeply personal story. We are all coming together for this cause for a reason, because we want to change it for the future, for our daughters, and really for, to like, if I could give myself, my former self, that 17-year-old self, a big hug and say it's all going to be okay and mean it, that would mean a lot.
Farmer and Bensky here in Washington ahead of this week's House vote and that rally at the Capitol, at which one lawmaker says he'll call for President Trump to meet with survivors.
We hope that there's enough momentum that we get the results we're looking for, and that if it's really clear that this is what the American people want, and this is what the Congress, what our government is pushing forward, that he will follow through with that.
So I think just to have that moment with him where he can see the truth in our faces, it would be really helpful.
And now, another step in their fight for accountability and transparency for them and all survivors.
We have accomplished a lot that people said was impossible. And I think that feeling the support that we feel, knowing how popular this is with the American people, that a tremendous amount of pressure placed on the government means things happen, and that this really could move forward.
It feels very unprecedented, and that's kind of the.
So again, these are voices of survivors that are here in Washington, D.C. amid the expected vote on Tuesday to release the Epstein files.
The exciting part about it, and that's where hope lives. So if it can be the American women's story, here we are, and we'll be on the steps of the Capitol together, holding hands, and hopefully every woman in America can look to that and feel a little bit safer.
Both women tell us they're grateful for the support of all the lawmakers, both Democrats and a handful of Republicans who have pledged support.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News.
Again, courtesy of NBC News. So, your thoughts and opinions on what you've heard thus far as it relates to President Trump. So, your thoughts and opinions on this very important broadcast as to President Donald Trump urging or encouraging Republicans to go ahead and vote to have the Epstein files released. And if this is a show of transparency or if there is something else in the making, because keep in mind, as we've heard, it still has to go through the Senate and it still would have to be signed off by President Trump, who could very well attempt to veto this. So are we on a gerbil wheel, or is there true transparency and honesty here? Will the Epstein files be released during current sitting President Donald Trump's run? And during this campaign, he did say that the Epstein files would be released. There was a hiccup and some issues, and it looks as though we're getting closer to that happening. The question is, will the American people and all those that are interested truly get all of the Epstein files, or will some papers, some files mysteriously disappear, scrubbed, heavily redacted, or the dog ate it? Your thoughts and opinions. In closing again, thank you so much for tuning in to this broadcast where President Trump says he has nothing to hide.
I know